Oh, the budget. So many people either love or hate the budget, maybe both. Love-hate relationships are a thing. If you're someone who hates budgets or budgeting, then chances are you made one of the following mistakes and it left a sour taste in your mouth. Or if you were just starting to consider having a budget or already have one, then this list would be great for you too. Keeping these mistakes in mind and avoiding them will help you in your journey to successful budgeting and financial freedom. My name is Andy, and if you enjoy this video, please give it a like and consider subscribing. Now let's jump into it. Mistake number 1, not having a budget. Now this might go without saying, but I will say it anyways. If you don't have an actual budget, then you don't really have a clear picture of what your money is doing and where it is going. If you don't know those two things, then it's really hard to make intelligent money choices and even harder to plan for the future. Even if you just take some baby steps, look at my little baby steps, towards having a budget, then you will notice amazing results. Becoming even a little informed about what your money is doing is very powerful. Even more so considering how few people actually budget. Budgeting is absolutely paramount if you want to break the paycheck to paycheck cycle and actually get ahead with your finances. Budgeting is how you completely shrug off that out of nowhere $2,000 car repair bill, or how you cope with the cost of buying the entire 1997 Taco Bell Nintendo 64 Pog collection that you feel is guaranteed to be a great investment because you're convinced Pogs are coming back. We can all dream. Budgeting is knowledge, it's planning, it's not the unfun, restrictive, and punishing force that its reputation makes you believe. True budgeting isn't scary, it's freeing. Mistake number 2, giving up too soon. See what I did there? Over the years, I have tried to start and keep a budget so many times, and every time I failed because I kept flip-flopping on which tool I was going to use to budget and never fully committed to one. And I failed because the moment I ran into a roadblock or difficulty or something I couldn't immediately wrap my head around, I gave up. The result was that my bad money habits and always playing catch up didn't stop. I gave up too quickly on my budgeting, so naturally I never got control of my money. My money got control of me. Budgeting is a habit and it's work, but it's not solving the great mysteries of the universe. Though if you are able to solve the great mysteries of the universe, then budgeting probably isn't an issue for you. So if you can just be persistent and determined, you can push through any roadblocks and start building your habit. When you want to give up on it, just remember that what you do now, this habit that you're building, is so that you can have a better future and so you can have more freedom. Having the right motivation changes how you look at the process. Mistake number 3, not prioritizing the emergency fund. If you are jumping out of a perfectly good airplane, you plan for it by wearing a parachute. So why wouldn't you be as good at planning with your budget? When you start budgeting, starting an emergency fund is one of the single most important steps you can take. I think that this is far more important than paying off your debt, especially right now. If you don't have even a small emergency fund when you start budgeting, that's priority number 1. So why do this over paying off debt? When you are living paycheck to paycheck and have debt, especially if you have high interest credit card debt, then you are just one unexpected expense away from adding even more debt. Having a buffer with the emergency fund, you can weather unexpected expenses without taking on more debt, so that you can work your way out of debt and out of the cycle. Also, as someone whose income dropped by 80 to 90% when the pandemic started, I can tell you that having a large emergency fund is absolutely paramount. 3 to 6 months of living expenses is the goal, but when you're just starting out, having one that's anywhere from $500 to $5,000 can be a game changer. Isn't that right? Mistake number 4, not being realistic. If you finally decide to start budgeting, it can be really easy to go all in and go a little overboard. You think that since you finally sat down to work on your budget, that you need to get it perfect and save as much money as possible. This can lead to unrealistic goals and expectations. A common error is when you look back at your checking account or credit card statements, add up all your groceries, for example, you see that you spent $450 on them last month. So you think, I need to save money, and you budget only $200 for them going forward. A+ for effort. The spirit of this is great because saving money is good, but you've got to be realistic and set yourself up for success. Otherwise, you will fail at sticking to your numbers over and over again and get discouraged pretty quickly. So to combat this error, I recommend that for all the things that really matter to you, that you start with your actual numbers, at least when you're first starting out. So in this example, that would mean budgeting the full $450 on groceries going forward because you know you spent that in the past and you like food. food is good. As you budget into the future, you can always reevaluate and see if you can save more and budget less, but that's not as important right away. And when you do it, it is important to start slow and not make dramatic cuts. If while budgeting you determine that your expenses are higher than your income, then look to places that you care less about first to make cuts. Then work your way up to the things that you do care about later if you still need to make more cuts. Mistake number 5, not allowing for fun. Now, it may sound counterintuitive, but not budgeting for fun things to spend money on can be one of the quickest ways for your budget to fail. And not having fun is boring. We're all going a little stir crazy this year, so let's not throw some extra boredom on top of that 2020 dumpster fire, shall we? I see this mistake all the time. It's so easy to put your budget together and get into this I gotta save mindset. You think you have to cut every single thing you can live without and live in a tiny room with no belongings, eating beans and rice every day, and yes, that will save you a lot of money, but it's totally not sustainable. You will burn out when you totally cut out all the things that bring you joy when you spend money. So I highly recommend that you budget for fun. What is fun? Well, if I have to help you with that one, then this might be a wake-up call that you're actually a cybernetic organism and not a human. I'm sorry you had to hear this from me, but someone had to say it. For us and our budget, setting money aside for fun is things like having a category for eating out, having individual fun money categories where we can spend the money on anything we want, and saving for things like vacations. If you are unsure where to start, I would recommend setting aside 5 to 10% of your income for fun as a starting point. Mistake number 6, not making budgeting a habit. A budget is only powerful if you use it, and the best way to use this power is to make it your habit. When budgeting is a habit, it's automatic. More important than automatic, it's on the top of your mind, which means you start thinking a certain way. I check our budget every single morning. This is usually housekeeping type stuff like categorizing recent transactions, just making sure everything looks okay, etc. I also have a monthly check-in where I look at the budget from a higher vantage point. When the budget is a habit and you have set check-in times, you start to develop a forward-thinking mindset with your money. When I do the monthly check-in, we ask ourselves if we have any upcoming needs or goals or planned expenses. Then we plan for those things. The refrigerator started making a weird sound this month. Well, time to add a new goal to the budget to repair it or replace it 6 months from now. Got a new pet dog or cat? Add a general pet expense for that unexpected vet bill. When you do this, you slowly and automatically chip away at these vague future expenses or goals, and when the time arrives for you to spend that money, you magically have it sitting there ready to deploy. No more scrambling. Thanks, budget habit. Mistake number 7, doing it alone. If you have a partner and or are married or have a family, I think it's very important that budgeting is something you share. Successful budgeting and management of money is so much easier when everyone involved is on the same team and same page. This doesn't mean that you need your partner to sit next to you every single day and watch you categorize individual transactions. What it does mean is that on a weekly or monthly basis, you sit down with everyone involved in your money situation and go over the broad view of your budget. Go over your goals and upcoming plans, look at the previous month's spending and decide if you need to increase, decrease, or remove certain categories. When everyone is on the same page with the budget, then it doesn't matter who goes to the grocery store or fills up the tank with gas because everyone knows how much they can spend and why. On top of that, when you are saving for important things like vacation, a house, a life-size statue of Darth Vader, or other big important shared goals, then it's so much easier to ask each other, do we need to spend this money here when we could save more towards our big goal? Mistake number 8, guessing. If you are buying a car and you have the car with the options all picked out and you ask the salesperson how much it will cost and they replied, oh, about $20,000 to $35,000, you have a problem with that, right? Well, it's the same for budgeting. You don't want to guess. When you are first making your budget, you might be working on your spending categories and think, how much should I plan for groceries? And then make up a number that sounds correct and write it down. When you make this mistake, you are setting up your budget to fail. Instead, log into your bank, look at your transactions for the past 2 to 3 months from grocery stores, figure out your average for each month, and then your average over the 2 to 3 months. Now you have a much smarter starting point for your budget. Instead of putting $300 on your budget for groceries because it sounds correct, you put down $425 because you know the past 3 months you spent $400 on average. When you take the guesswork out, you make much better decisions and have less complications. And who doesn't love less complications? Mistake number 9, not accounting for irregular expenses. Regular expenses are pretty easy to account for, so that's what most people focus on. However, they tend to forget about irregular expenses or give them little thought and think, I'll get to that later. I think this is a mistake. Planning for irregular expenses is key to having a successful budget. What are irregular expenses? They would be things like Christmas gifts, pet care, car insurance if you have annual or biannual payments, vacations, or other goals. With many of the budgeting tools, it's very easy to plan for these. You just need to decide on how much you need, when you need it by, and then input that into your budget. Then you can slowly add money to that goal so that when you hit that deadline you set, the money is ready to spend, no sweat. For example, you might be someone who celebrates Christmas, and in celebrating, you give gifts to family and or friends, Since Christmas is a holiday in the US, it has a set date of December 25th. So if you decide you're going to spend $400 on gifts for people, you could input that into your budget and know that you need to set aside $100 a month starting now to reach your goal in time. This is one way the budget becomes so powerful. You no longer need to scramble or check your accounts and hope you have enough for gifts before December. You can systematically save each month because you know what the future will be. That's planning. Mistake number 10, not tracking expenses. When some people write out a budget, they write out the categories of spending they expect to have: rent, utilities, groceries, etc. And then they write out what they need or want to spend for each one, but then they stop. They write out the plan, but they don't track the progress or truly execute on the plan. The important step they are missing is tracking expenses. Not tracking expenses removes so much of your budget's effectiveness. What good is planning the budget if you don't know what you're actually spending and where? When you track each expenses and purchases you make, you get to see exactly how much you would spend in each category. And this makes it way easier to see if you're actually sticking to your plan, if you need to make adjustments, or to make plans for the future. The reason many people skip this step is because it's work. You have to find each transaction, input the transactions, categorize it, etc. Thankfully, most modern budgeting tools will automatically import your transactions for you. So all you have to do is figure out where to categorize them. After a little training, the software usually starts to know your categories automatically. And with additional training, it will also stop peeing in the house. Now you can certainly do it all manually. However, I highly recommend you do the automatic import method if you are a beginner especially, because it removes one layer of complexity that could become a roadblock. Mistake number 11, oh yeah, we're ending this list on an odd number, not saving or investing. If you have your expenses covered and you have your emergency fund filled, and you still have money left over to budget, it can be tempting to think, I'm gonna buy myself something real nice. I deserve it. And then let things like savings and investing take a back seat. Investing is absolutely critical if you ever want to retire or be financially secure in the future. It's one of the most straightforward and proven ways to build wealth and increase your net worth. So if you aren't investing or just doing the absolute minimum, you are doing your future self a big disservice. If you want to learn more about saving and investing for your future and for retirement, check out this video right up here. Now, if you find yourself in this position to have money available in your budget, I'm not advocating that you never spend the money on yourself. I think that you should have a balanced outlook. What I am saying is that investing and saving is one of the most important things you can do with your money, and if you're able to do these things, you should with the maximum amount of money possible, while still accounting for other goals and things that are just for you and fun. Okay, if you avoid all of these mistakes, you'll be very well set up to have and keep a successful budget. When you are successful at budgeting, you know what your money is doing and where it is going. When you know those things, you start to move closer and closer to financial freedom and a financially stress-free life. If you got something out of this video, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. I upload videos about making money and personal finance every week and would love it if you stuck around. Until the next one, see you later.